Yes, people, and welcome back to Southview Quiz with your boy Ashmatic in the house. I can't see him, I can't find him. If anyone see my co-host, please send it out to me. Send out the Batman sign. I need the Batman sign out right now for Marlon. I don't know if he's all right. God bless him. Hopefully he's all good. But yeah, I've got some guests that are going to help me run this show together tonight to bring you a show. And I want you guys to give them a warm welcome. Also, guys, in the comments, get involved in the chat. Where's Marlon? That's what I want to see. Where is Marlon? Like, where's Wally? I can't see you, bro. I don't know where you are. But yeah, man, big yourselves up. Also, big up the silent listeners as well. And make sure you give us a like. Make sure you tell your sister, tell your father, your mother, your auntie, your best friend. Just spread the Spurs word, the Spurs gospel to all of your people. Them. I want to big up man like Tobes. Yep, and a big up also George. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming on. What are you telling me, Tobes? I'm gonna start with you. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to be talking with a boys from the Spurs community, all things Spurs. So I appreciate you having me on.
Love, 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 love. And also, I want to give a big shout out to George. How are you doing, my broski? How are you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's sad that we're coming on a loss, and we got a few bad games ahead of us to talk about. I hope we could come on talking our shit, like just being all these good Spurs things. But do you know what? We got a lot to digest, and it's good to be back, man.
I wanted to find out how you were. We went straight into it. I was like, whoa, damn. I know we had a couple losses, but I was like, how are you, bro? You know, is food eating? Are you eating food right? I know the cheeks are looking nice. You know what I'm saying? Is Mumsy
No,
okay?
it is, yeah. I just got off a stream talking Spurs and everything Tottenham. So right now my head's just still like it's keyed in, and I'm just thinking, things aren't looking as good as I thought, man. But we'll get into it.
Just a bit of admin, quick up, big up Spursy talks. Yes, my bro. He said, where's my invite? Bro, the invite is there, bro. Like you can come on whenever you want. I'm here for it, man. Just jump on anytime. Big up Peter Aga. Big yourselves up, man. Love to the panel. It says, love my people. Tony, I see you, man. Don't worry, big up yourself and much love, man. But we're going to get straight into it. This is the match preview for Aston Villa. We are coming off the back of 2 losses, and this potentially could be the turnaround for Spurs. I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. I don't know if you realize it could be the turnaround, but it could also be a real stinker. You could go down to 3 losses, and people could start saying, "This ain't Scotland, mate." Yeah, and you need to switch it up. What are you doing? We're gonna have rival vans chatting their rubbish as always. They're gonna be there. They're gonna talk their rubbish. We're still only 2 points off the top of the table. Tobes, talk to me. Tops. What are you saying about the Aston Villa preview? What is your thoughts going into this Sunday?
It's an important game. It's an important game. Not just because it's actually huge for us to be able to get out of this little rut that we're in, but also again, it's just to prove that Andrew's philosophy, Andrew's style is a style that can be implemented and it is sustainable. Um, Admittedly, we've been ravaged by injuries and suspensions, and to be honest with you, a lot of people have been calling him like words like naive and stubborn. But to be honest with you, if you look at any of the top coaches that own world football, very rarely do the top coaches ever turn from their style. Very rarely do they ever feel like, okay, I have to change my style because it's maybe not working for them. Right now it might be morale, might right now it could be personnel, but I do not feel that for us to move in the direction that I think we're going into, it has to be a situation where he changes it up. And I very much expect us to go in a similar vein into the game on Sunday against Villa, which I think will be a really, really big game just because we've started the season off well. Villa have obviously started the season off really well. Where they're only a point behind us in the league, and they're actually in a run of very good form with lots of informed players, full-fledged internationals, and players who have been experienced at this level in the league. So I think it'll be a really good game, but I do also feel that there's no way we can come from this game without winning. I feel like just to win in this game is important, because when you think about some of the big teams and what they have to deal with at the top level, one of the things that top managers always say that teams need to do is suffer well. And if you can suffer well with like through moments of adversity and moments of toughness, that can kind of get you to a point where actually if you've suffered well, when the difficult parts of the season then come later on, you know, they won't even feel as if they've been difficult. So this is the first game in a run of a few games that I think we're going to have to try and suffer well. And if we can maybe do that and get some 3 points against Villa, then that might be the start of our regeneration after the last couple of games.
And also, George, do you think Ange was naive against Wolves for not switching things up? I mean, he went with some would say a pragmatic midfield three. Do you expect him to do exactly the same against Aston Villa, or do you expect a change?
Similar to Tops, I think that it's probably going to be. We're going to have to get used to for the next couple of weeks. We're not going to be able to play the way we started off the season. I don't feel like we should revert completely from that. We're obviously going to have to try to play that way, because at the end of the day, top managers are going to stick to their guns. And if we're being honest, it's better for us to lose playing this way with shit players and then win play in a completely different way, because then the next week when you come back, the players are going to be confused. They're going to be going into positions that they thought they were going into that were right. And it just messes up the whole flow and the chemistry of the team for me personally. Like the next couple of weeks with the players that we've got, we're missing the likes of Van de Ven and no Maddison, no Romero for this weekend. Like, we're going to have to make things work and probably just win ugly. I do think that he probably can make a few tweaks. Like you say, the midfield, I did find was a bit pragmatic. I do think starting with, I got why he started with Højbjerg, because if we're being honest, up until that game, Højbjerg has been good at any other time that he's come into the team. But that's the first time that we gave him the full chance to start, and he just looked horrible. He didn't look like himself. Well, he looked back to him old self, I should say. He looked back to his old self like last season, where he just can't string a few passes together. But I'd like to see him take more chances. That's the one thing I will say, because at the moment it does seem like he's playing it a bit safe with the player choices he's going for. Maybe not going for some of the younger players or less experienced players that could probably add something different to our team. For example, I can't watch Darren Davies start another game together. I just generally can't do it. I would much rather watch the likes of Phillips come in. We bought him for a reason. Yeah, he's young. Yeah, he's inexperienced. But you don't buy players to just sit them in the academy like we've done for many years and just they rot. They rot in the academy. Academy football isn't where our players, anyway. Some other players do benefit from it, but not many times we've seen Tottenham players come through the academy and flourish into the first team. It's been a while, and it's probably one or two players that you can think of. So we need to give those guys chances. A player that, let's be honest, he's probably, if not, he can't be much worse than Dyer, is my point. He really can't be much worse than Dyer or Davies, because I think that they're just bad as a pair together. But as long as we can make a few tweaks, be a bit more confident on the ball, because I do feel like last game that even Basuma, I don't know what happened. Like, I was looking at Basuma and Sarr and saying, bro, like, the last couple games you're running the midfield and now you look like you don't want the ball. Neither of them look like they wanted the ball. So I'd like to see the players that have been good at the start of the season to step it up against Villa. And we're going to need it because, like you said, Villa's a really good team. We've seen how they've been under Emery, one of the best teams in the league since he's come in. And their away record is not great, but they still get points and they still manage to damage team with a lot of goals. So with the defense that we're going to be playing, it is going to be techie, but I'd just like to see him take a few more chances with that midfield and maybe not start with Højbjerg. Maybe go Sarr, Bentancur, and I was going to say Lo Celso, but I don't know. You guys tell me, man. What other options could we look at? Because I don't feel like we can go with Højbjerg, Bentancur, and Sarr again. Like,
I'll let you answer that, man. What do you say? What would be your starting lineup against Aston Villa at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday on Sky Sports Live, by the way?
My starting lineup would be, sounds kind of crazy, but I think it kind of picks itself just because of where we're at. Like, just to quickly talk about George's point, like, I do kind of see your point with regards to taking chance on youth, but the way I see youth is that youth, they have two stages of their development. The first stage of their development is them acclimatizing to first team football. So, you know, a lot of time we see people like Donnelly and Phillips and Dorrington being on the bench. sometimes I think a lot of first team managers realize that actually it's just important for first team players and academy players to be around the first team, to know what it's like to be on the first team coach, to know what it's like to be in first team training, to know what it's like to be in away days in other scenarios where you're around first team players and you're getting prepared to be a first team player. And then the second development I think is really important is their integration. And I think the perfect integration, and most people will say as well, the best integration for a young player is as if they are eased in. And to be honest with you, we've been very fortunate whereby our first starting like centre backs in Romero and Van de Ven have been both available and they've both been in form. And to be honest with you, I would have expected somewhere along the line had both stayed injury free and suspension free that Phillips somewhere along the line would have hopefully been integrated in a situation whereby it's less chaotic. I do, however, feel that first team is completely different to academy football, especially the development of the under 21 groups. And I feel like to throw someone like Phillips or Doreen into like this chaotic sort of situation with players that one, they haven't played with, and two, they haven't even been acclimatized to, it then throws a spanner in the works. And the way I always look at the situation is that, like, what do I think I would prefer? Would I prefer a first team player to be the one that starts and play badly and get the stick of it because he can deal with it because they're used to first team opportunities? Or would I have a young player, blooded, have a bad game, have his confidence destroyed, and then his first team opportunities then suddenly disappear? So in my opinion, that's kind of where I feel with it. With regards to the team, I think it should really pick itself in the sense that it should be Vicario. Udogi should be back from international injury free and suspension free. It should be Dyer and Davies at right back, centre back, and it should be at left back. It should be Emerson Royale. I think we're going to go with a middle two in Bissouma
Poro not
and
available?
Sarr. Sorry?
Is Poro not available?
Or is available?
Sorry, Poro,
Yeah,
excuse me,
that's what I was
Poro.
thinking. He just
Sorry,
skipped over
Poro.
one of our
Sorry,
best
yeah.
players.
Sorry, Poro right back. Yeah. Bissouma, Sarr,
Basuma's not
Lo
available,
at
remember?
10. Excuse me, Højbjerg at 6, Sarr at 8, Lo Celso at 10, and then left wing Johnson, right wing Kulusevski, up front Son.
It's interesting you said Lo Celso because, or Chelsea or GLC. I'm going to call him Mike GLC.
Yeah.
Not quite. But basically, the way I see it is on Palace, he brought on Benton Core before he brought GLC on. So what is that telling you? Does that mean that, you know, GLC is maybe not his go-to player? Does that mean maybe Benton Core might get a look in? I know he hasn't had the minutes, but he's played against, I think it was for Uruguay. He got some minutes on and he actually ended up assisting a goal. And I think he's actually playing tonight or he's played today against Bolivia. So does anyone think that Benton Core could start ahead of...
Yeah. I personally, I choose Bentancur. Like, I think Bentancur has to. I do get that he needs to be eased back, but I think he's been back in training for nearly 2 months now. It's been a while since he's been back in and around the first team, sort of playing football. So for me, it's probably the week that, especially with the past 2 weeks off, and he's been playing international football. Like, this is the time to give him his start, let him go back in, and if we need to take him off a bit early in the game, we can do that. We've got the option to bring on the likes of, I'd say, Højbjerg, because for me, I can't start with Højbjerg, like, especially after last week's performance. I know some people thought he done well, but I thought he was horrible, especially in the first half. And I see in the second half he sort of improved, but in the first half, the whole chemistry of that midfield was it just went shit. Like, without Maddison, most of them were just looking to find Maddison on the ball, and where he wasn't there wasn't really much options. Me personally, I would go with Bentancur, Sarr, and then GLC. The thing is with Celso, he's not that comfy on the ball, and the thing that we've seen him for 5 years, like, let's be honest, like, he hasn't improved. There's not been much about his game that convinces you that he can make it in the Premier League, and I totally understand why Ange doesn't use him. I just don't think that I just don't rate him as a player. I don't rate anything about his game. He's very left-footed. I do think that he could come in against this potential Aston Villa side and show us some creativity, because we've got nothing. We've literally got nothing in that midfield, and we need a player that's just a bit more forward-minded and more forward-thinking. But how it works out, and if it actually does work out, I can't say that I'm convinced of it. I don't know if GLC is ready for that.
So I want to pick up a co-host of mine, a very good friend of mine, Hass. Welcome to the show, my broski.
What's happening, mate?
Last minute call up. I appreciate you coming on. I can't find Marlon. I don't know. Have you seen him? I tried to put the Batman sign up, but I still can't find him. Like, where's
no, I've not seen him.
It's mad. It's mad. But I wanted to ask you your take on the actual midfield trio. Who do you see coming in? Is GLC good enough? Do you think he will start? Is that a problem that Ange has in his head? Like, is that an actual conundrum? Does he bred in someone else, like one of the youngsters from the academy, or is it too soon against Aston Villa? Like, there's so many questions I'm throwing at you right now. But what do you think? What should that midfield three look like coming on Sunday?
Well, obviously we've got Bissouma missing. Sarr didn't show me enough last game that he could come in and fill that void that Maddison's left. I think the most natural replacement for Maddison would possibly be GLC, but for whatever reason he's not playing GLC. He's not thinking of playing GLC. So for me, he might play it a bit safe. He might go with Bentancur, Sarr, and possibly I'm thinking he might even play Skip. I don't want to see that, but that might happen. We saw in pre-season he played Skip in a free. Got a couple of goals in pre-season, but I think you'd have to look out of those three. If they played, Bentancur would have to push up the furthest, in my opinion, because Sarr for me didn't. For me, he just wasn't that guy in the last game when we played against Wolves. I just don't think he's got that about him, sort of thing, to get into the final third, make things happen. Whereas Bentancur can hold the ball up. He's got pass in him. He's got experience. So yeah, for me, I think it's GLC. He's the natural one to come in there. We've seen it for Argentina. We see Messi even say, that he enjoys playing with GLC when he's in the team. He makes things happen. Even when he come on against Wolves, hit the bar as well. But yeah, I just think there isn't much options at the moment for Ange, so he's got to make do with what he's got. He can't be too front-footed, I think, with the team that he's got, because we're playing Aston Villa, and Aston Villa are going to want to be front-footed as well. With the players that they have, they're going to want to expose us on the wings. They're going to target the wing-backs again. Porro's the weak link, in my opinion. Most dribbled past player in the Premier League. People might counter that by saying that he has the most recoveries, but sooner or later, when he comes up against quality like Diaby, Zaniolo, he's gonna, we're gonna see him and how good he can be. But for me, I just don't think we've got the depth at the moment, so anything can happen, to be honest.
I just want to comment on Tops real quick, and obviously we've spoken about the starting lineup. Do you think, and you're the one that said it as well, about Dyer, and also you said about Davis starting, you think that's the right call, and it's the only option we do have. Do you think Ange needs to tweak his tactics for Aston Villa and for the actual centre-backs that we have? Do we carry on playing the high line? Do we drop off a bit and invite them onto us? Do we switch it up? What does Ange do against Aston Villa with that back line?
It's a very difficult situation for us to kind of consider, because obviously, if you know that the way he plays, he first of all uses Romero as a tempo setter, and he also uses him as what he would call like his in this analogy, just stay with me, he uses him as his cat, whereby he's the one who kind of is laboured in his attempts to defend, and he uses Van der Ven as his dog, so that when there is balls in behind, he's the one that uses his immediate pace to try and set back. Immediately, you lose that, because you lose the athleticism, you lose the pace, you lose the ability to defend on the turn, and you just lose the general playing ability on the ball when you put in Davies and Dyer. How does he now tweak this? I actually thought for large parts of the game against Wolves, we actually defended in a way that was manageable. I feel like if you look at the way that we are as a team anyway this season, we genuinely do give up points. Excuse me, we give up chances, we give up space, we give up possession in moments just because that's how we are setting up as a team. But I feel like in our defensive moments against Wolves, I didn't think that we were terrible. I actually thought it was okay. The moments that we conceded the goals were difficult, but I still feel that like the setup that we have with regards to keeping teams higher up in their half with the numbers we have in the inverted fullbacks, and also the way that we use Vicario, it makes it very difficult for teams to actually be able to penetrate us properly. How I think he should probably tweak this. Maybe we do start maybe 5, 10 yards a bit further back than we would normally be happy to. And also we should maybe temper the way in which we use our inverted fullbacks. So when we do lose the ball and we try to keep teams in the opposite half, maybe we need to just relax that and maybe ask them to drop a little bit. And maybe if we're going to use Højbjerg as that 6, maybe his role has to be more important in being able to protect the back two from any sort of central or sort of attacks on the flanks. I don't think it should be something that should be a massive change, but I think it has to be something that is small to just accommodate what they are capable of doing. I think in terms of structure, I don't think Davies and Dyer are terrible. I think as personnel, that is where you start to see their deficiencies.
I agree. I do agree with a lot of what you said there, Tops. The only thing I would say is that against Wolves, I feel like we had the benefit of the doubt that they didn't really have any good 1v1 players out wide. Like they were really poor out on the wing. It was just really predictable, just putting balls into the box or then cutting back the balls back across. With Aston Villa in particular, you're looking at two players on the either wing, which are 1v1 specialists. They're going to want to take Udogie and Poro on constantly, as well as a striker who's high flying in confidence. And Watkins isn't just good in and around the box. He's really good with the build up play. He's good with linking up with the wingers, and then his movement's going to create a lot of issues. I do agree with what you said that we're definitely going to have to start 5 to 10 yards back with the back line, because if we don't, their pace is going to kill us. And we saw even in the latter parts of the game against Wolves, as soon as they'd go through, Dyer, his legs, he doesn't have any. And Dave is the same for him. So we can't really rely on them to either try and do that job, because we're asking them to do something that they're just not capable of. I just think that with regards to our defending, I'm not confident that we're going to be able to hold out against Villa as long as we did with Wolves. Like I don't feel like it's probably going to be early if they do score, and it's going to rattle us, and we're probably going to have to wake up and sort of find our game pretty soon into the first half, because we can't do what we've done against other teams where we give it 20 minutes in the first half and then we start to find our feet and then we start playing good football. We've done that a lot, especially against, I remember the Liverpool game, the Arsenal game, the Man United game, and there's a few games where we just gave teams too much of the ball and too much possession at the start of the games. And if we do that against Villa and play the way we did against Wolves, they're going to kill us, especially early in the game. They're going to kill us bad.
And we all know Unai Emery's like a really good tactician as well. So if we are to believe that Ange only has sort of one game plan, what are we going to do? Even like with the limited squad that we've got at the moment, the limited players that we have, it's going to be difficult to change it up. For me, the problem area is the fact that the defenders are too slow. We can't implement that high line with the likes of Davies and Dyer. Like, I was watching Davies tonight. He weren't great. You know what I mean? He gave away a penalty, stupid pen. He was soft, but in the Premier League, we've seen them given as well. And I just think with Dyer last week, watching him like turning circle of a truck, it's just we have to start that defensive line 5 to 10 yards a bit further back than what we usually do, just to give ourselves a bit of a chance, because Diaby, rapid. Zaniolo will get in. They've got so many players that can hurt us. So yeah, for me, look, I've got worries for this game. I'm having nightmares already. They're going to come out full force. We've seen what they can do, what they're about. I think that only saving grace is the fact that they don't do so well away. At home, they're really good, but away, we might have a chance. But we need to implement Brennan Johnson's pace. For me, last game we didn't implement his pace. Yeah, he got into a great position to score that goal, but how many times did you see him beat his man or run it down the line and cut the ball back? We didn't see that. It was literally just hold the ball up, pass it to your nearest teammate and go. I want to see him like exposing, or taking on their fullbacks and having a go.
Now, just a quick one to the panel. We now know that obviously the Saar, Basuma, and Højbjerg experiment didn't work too well, and Basuma's going to be suspended, so we're missing his presence in midfield. Madison's out as well, so those are two key areas where we could dominate the midfield. And I always think that games are won and lost in midfield. Does anyone think that Ange might tweak and maybe put someone like a Kulusevski in the middle of the park? Because the reason why I ask that is because Bentancur, at the moment, I'm not sure if he's 100%. And as I said before, GLC doesn't seem like he's getting the nod at the moment. For some reason, he was left out. So does anyone see a route in, or is everyone against having Kulusevski out there? And if they do have Kulusevski in that middle, in that number 8 role, which Madison does so well, who goes on the right and then who goes on the left for us up front? Anyone can answer.
Yeah, I said it before on our podcast as well. Let's give Kulusevski a goal in the middle, maybe push Porro out onto the right to occupy Kulusevski's spot, and then you can possibly play Emerson at right back, but have him a little bit more defensive minded. We all know who's going to invert, and Ange likes to play with the inverted wing backs. But for me, Porro can take his man on, can whip the ball in. Kulusevski, it means that he wouldn't have to do a lot of running, but he can hold the ball up. We've seen him hold the ball up on the right-hand side. And if he can do that, playing through the middle, perhaps he can bring others in like Son and Brennan Johnson. But we'd have to, like I said, if we're going to play that way, Brennan Johnson, we need to utilise that pace. We need to be threading those balls through to him, I don't think he'll do it. I think he'll stick to what he knows. I think he'll stick to where the players are most comfortable in. I think if we were going to do it, he would have done it a long time ago. If the players were comfortable in playing in different positions, he would have done it.
I just don't think it works for Kulu, to be honest. I think with regards to, like, I always see a lot of people suggest playing Kulu in the middle and the 10. I don't think he's good with the ball in tight spaces. I think that he's best if you put him out on the wing, he drags the defender out wide and he does the 1v1, and that's sort of where his best work is done, especially when he's getting the ball up the pitch on the wing. I feel like if you put him in the middle of the pitch, you take away a lot of the space around his game. He's not that good on the half turns because he's going to have to be quick and sharp with the ball. And that's not, like, he can be at times, but that's not his game. His game is getting the ball, looking at his man, trying to run him down the wing, cutting on the inside and doing a little bit of trickery in and around that final third bit of the box. But you put him in the middle of the pitch, I don't feel like we have a good enough winger to go out on the right for one, like you highlighted, Ash. I don't feel like we have that at the moment. You could put Brennan Johnson out on the right, but who goes out and lift Brian Hill? I'm not convinced of anything that he's done anything in a Spurs shirt. It's just not looked good enough. So I feel like I just can't ever see Kulu working in the middle. I don't feel like it's ever going to work for us. And it is.
Do you think he's successful on the right? Do you think?
I think. Well, like, it depends, and I just want to be straight with this. It depends what you define as being successful in a Ange system. So I actually really agree with what George is saying. If you look at the style of wingers that Ange tends to like to deploy, he likes to have guys who are what he would call quick, agile, one-on-one, high-volume dribblers. And if you look at Kulusevski, first of all, the first thing I think is very important about having him on that right wing is that I think for our right-hand side in general, we are trying to develop some sort of connection between those three players who have basically played all season. So that's Porro, that's Saar, that's Kulusevski. By Immediately bringing him into the middle, that's breaking up what is, I think, Ange's preferred three on that right hand side, and I feel as the season's gone on, they've actually started to build a bit of a better connection. I actually think that the work between Porro and Kulusevski has actually developed such to a positive point where you've seen Porro assist goals against Liverpool, you've seen Porro assist goals like the one he did against Wolves. The second point I think is very important is that if you look at the style of play of the kind of winger he is, he's not supposed to be a super fast winger that gets in behind. If you look at the number of passes he receives in between the lines, he actually receives a lot of progressive passes in between the channels, and a lot of his passes are actually into the final third. So he's actually been one of the main reasons that we actually are able to sustain possession in the final third. He is the one that's actually adding to a lot of what we call field tilts, so the ability to hold the ball in the final third. And if you look at the channels that are constantly being created by Porro moving in field, by Sarr moving in field, the passes are always constantly getting to Kulusevski on our right hand side. And if you look at a lot of the positive moments we've had this season, they've actually started with him on the right hand side. I kind of feel, again, that whilst it's frustrating because I feel like he's a very good dribbler, he's very good with the ball at his feet, I don't feel he has the full skill set to be what I would say a progressive 8. And the reason I say that is because I just don't feel like he is, first of all, like I don't think he has a speed of thought. When you're playing as a 10, there's lots of different, or at least as a creative or attacking 8, there's lots of different things you need to be able to do positively. You need to be able to have really positive number of ball recoveries, really positive number of yards in which you can progressively carry the ball, lots of moments which you can progressively receive the ball in between the lines and be able to use it and pass it successfully. And I just feel like in his career, although he's 22, he doesn't have those numbers. And it's so funny that we really dismiss Lo Celso. Just go back and look at Lo Celso's numbers. I know a lot of people don't rate him. I know a lot of people don't see him as being the person that's going to lead us to where we want to go in Maddison's absence. But if we're talking stylistically, statistically, he is the closest thing we have to Maddison. He's the person that has the most successful take-ons outside of Maddison. He's the person that has the most number of touches and passes in the final third, and he's the person who has the most number of progressive carries in the final third. So
Yeah, but it's not
unfortunately,
in products though. I hear what you're saying.
and this is again, this is something that I feel that like he probably is starting to hear this a lot, not just from the fans, but I think from Ange. He doesn't shoot enough. He doesn't beat his player enough. I actually feel like he can create more than he actually does, and that's why I think at some point we're gonna start to look towards having an actual, first of all, quick, pacey winger and a proper one-on-one winger. What I actually think is so frustrating in this is that Johnson is playing in the position that Kulusevski actually is playing. Like Johnson's MO is literally get to the byline and cut back, but he does that from the right hand side. And where are we playing Johnson? Literally, we're playing him on the left. So he's already been handicapped halfway. And unfortunately, he's been handicapped halfway because the player that is literally vital in our build up and our progression and our sustaining of field tilt is Kulusevski.
Does anyone else agree with this comment that Lo Celso isn't interested at Spurs? I want to come to you, George, because I said earlier in the show that Bentancur started over him against Palace. He came on, not started. He came on for I forget who it was, but he came on ahead of Lo Celso. Do you feel like he's a player that doesn't seem happy? A lot of the fan base says his body language is a little bit off. He doesn't seem like he's going to run a games for some reason. Does he want to be here? He's been linked with Barcelona of late. But then I hear the opposite. I hear that he actually wants to be here in January. He said he wants
I don't know, man. I think he might go do a job for his boy Emery. Like he's been under Emery for the past 2 years before he came to Villa. Like he's gonna go do a job for him. Like I agree. I don't think he is interested. Like whenever he is at Spurs, whenever you see him play, he just doesn't really look up for it. I mean, it doesn't help that he's obviously not been given the chance. Whenever he has been here, he's really not had too much chances in the team. And even so far this season, the thing is with him is like, does he have an injury? Does he not? Like, this is always a question that we're asking ourselves because when he's not in the team, it's like, oh, he's got an injury or he's ill or something's gone wrong. And then when he is in the team, he just isn't getting the chance. And I question whether he's just not been good enough in training or he just doesn't show the application and effort to want to get into the team, because we all know, especially with Ange, he said at the start of the season, he wants to give Gio a chance. He sees the qualities that he has, but let's be honest, like he's not played. For me, he's not been given the chance. He had the chance against Wolves for 5-10 minutes when you knew the game was done, when you knew that it was probably far too late to bring him on at that time, because Wolves already take control of the game. They'd already had all of the possession at that time, and then the shift had already happened. We should have brought him on at like half time. So don't get me wrong. I think it's probably this is the game to show us whether you want to be a Tottenham player or not. Come into the Aston Villa team against Aston Villa, get the 90 minutes, give him the chance. But if he doesn't play good this game, then it shows me enough that he's been at the club for 5 years, man. Like, there's nothing more that you need to see of this player. Like, he's literally a part of the Ndombele Sessegnon, like the worst ever transfer window I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Coming on to you, Hass, and that was a great comment as well, about he's been here for 5 years and we haven't seen anything in a Spurs shirt. And I see Tops is disagreeing already there, and you can come in whenever you're ready. But I just wanted to get Hass's thoughts on this as well, on the whole Gio situation, because with Gio, he, like you said, Tops, I mean, or was it George that said that? I think it was George actually. He said how under Unai Emery, I know he's been scouting him for a minute, and when he was in Spain, he was ripping it up. I saw against Liverpool, he did a number on Liverpool. Like, I remember he did like a 360 pirouette against them. I was watching the Champions League game. I was like, is that our boy Lo Celso? Right, is that the same brother? What? But is it a case of Champions League is different, La Liga is different, and the Premier League is different, and maybe this league is not suited for him, or he just doesn't match it? Or do you agree with George in the fact that he just doesn't want to be here? Or do you think he is the natural replacement for a Maddison and it's time for him to step up? Because he was meant to be the Eriksen replacement, even though I know he's slightly different. What are your thoughts on GLC? Are you a fan or are you not?
Well, let's get one thing straight. I don't think he's a natural replacement for Maddison. We say natural because he's the closest thing we've got at the moment to some sort of creativity. I enjoyed watching Lo Celso when he played for Argentina, because when you see him playing for Argentina, he's busy. You know, he's putting tackles in, he's winning the ball, he's carrying the ball forward. He's looking to play Messi, Di Maria, whoever it is. He's looking to play him in. Different sort of player. I mean, when it comes to Tottenham, I just think where it's been like a mixture of injuries, not being in form, not having a run in the team, I think there's been a lot of factors in him not being successful at Spurs. And I really don't think we've seen the best of Lo Celso at Spurs, unfortunately. But you have to say, after 5 years, are we going to see that? I don't think so. I think my guy's sort of holding out for a move at some point. You know, if he was to have some part in the team, I think he would have played a couple of weeks ago, or he would have had at least a few more substitutions than what he's had. Like, he hasn't even been subbed on, sort of thing. But I don't think he's a terrible player. I think it's a bit harsh to label him sort of in the Ndombele category, because that's just like a whole different level for me. You know, at least you can say Lo Celso trains and doesn't cause any drama, but I think with him, it's just the fact that it just hasn't worked out for him because of many little factors here and there. Would I like to see him come on this week? I'd like to see him come on to see what he can give us. But I just think, like what you said, Ash, the writing's on the wall, because he would have given him more minutes than what he's had already this season, considering the amount of injuries we've had. If he was that good, or if he was that capable, he would have come in straight away, and he hasn't. You know, last week was quite telling when Sarr was was the replacement for Maddison. You know, and Sarr's nowhere near a number 8. Let's be honest. So yeah, for me, I think possibly angling away for a move, biding his time, maybe. You know, let's not forget we loaned him at first, didn't we? And then we paid the money to bring him in from Villarreal, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. He's a conundrum for me. Lo Celso is a conundrum for me, because I don't understand how someone can be that good playing for his national side. And then when it comes to club, it's just a different player. And let's not make any bones about it. Yeah? If he wasn't injured, he would have played in the World Cup. He would have played in the World Cup. But McAllister took his place.
Before I get onto you, Tops, and I'm going to ask you this question so you can think about it while I bring up this super chat. Big up Bobby K. I'm going to bring up in a second. What I want to ask you, would you swap a Lo Celso for a Rafinha at Barcelona? Let me just get into the super chat real quick. Bobby K, big up yourself. Great content, boys. Keep up the great work. And I do appreciate the donations, man. Keep them coming, man. And big up his show as well. Kuva and the boys, and he's got a show with his son as well. I'll be watching that. Proper jokes.
Yeah, Free Spurs boys.
Free Spurs boys. Bobby K, I need to get you on at some point, man. Always love you. Always welcome here, man. Big up yourselves. But yeah,
always.
Big up. So coming back to Tops, what are you telling me? So would you do the swap deal? Would you do a Lo Celso, Rafinha, knowing what we need on the wings? Or do you think Lo Celso has been misrepresented at Spurs and he just needs a run of games to make it work?
I'm not a big Lo Celso fan. I very much echo a lot of the points Has made. I can't really work out why it hasn't worked out for him. I feel like this season he's been hampered with a bit of injury and he's just getting back into form and fitness. So his minutes have kind of progressively increased. Would I swap him for Rafinha? I liked Rafinha. I liked what he offered, but one of the things that always used to really annoy me about him was that I thought his end product was near or nothing. For a player of his quality, and now I watch him sometimes at Barca, and I don't think he's moved on in his development. So I don't know. Would I like these swap deals? They don't really happen these days. Unfortunately, they just don't happen. So you often find you either have to pay money one side or the other, and someone tends to be losing out. It's never a fair swap. Would I do it right now for Lo Celso? No, I wouldn't, because I still feel that at this point we are still at a loss from a player of his style, of his position, and I still don't know what version of Madison we're going to get back once he's fit, or once he's injury free. So I wouldn't take the risk. You know, we took the risk already by losing someone like Sanchez when there were players like Davies and Dyer who could have gone, and that risk has now come to fruition, and it's bit us in the ass. So with already a small stretch squad in like certain areas, I wouldn't make that swap just yet.
Cool. So I want to get to George real quick, and I want to talk about Aston Villa in particular. Now, Emre is known to have many formations and many tactical styles depending on the game state and who he's playing against. And he normally plays with a high line, predictably with a 4-4-2, if I'm not mistaken, but he can switch that up into a 4-2-3-1, into many different styles. But what I have seen with his midfield, and people are saying McGinn might be injured, but typically I've seen him with McGinn and maybe a Zaniolo. He normally has a Luiz in the middle, and I think it's Kamara alongside Luiz, and they normally come a bit narrow in that midfield. So they kind of, instead of playing like a wide flat midfield, they kind of bring that midfield into a narrow midfield four. So we may be outnumbered at times in that midfield if he does decide to go down that route. Is there any players that worry you going into this game?
I was gonna say McGinn, because so far this season he's probably been their most impressive midfielder. Like, a lot of people look at the star names, they look at the likes of Douglas Luiz, they look at Boubacar Kamara, and they're like, "Oh, these players are doing so." But McGinn has been the cog in that squad, just like keeping everything ticking. And I think even in the last game against Fulham, he was like involved in all three of the goals. Like, he was a key man in all three of them. So for me, McGinn would have been the number one guy in that midfield I would have thought would have caused us the most problems, just because he's just so active. He's active in all areas. But apart from him, I mean, I think the rest of the midfield, we can like sort of, they're similar to ours. Like, the rest of their midfield are more defensively focused when you look at the other players. I know if you bring in Zaniolo, for me, I think if you're a bit more physical with Zaniolo and we can put a bit more bodies on him, he's not going to be a player. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. He's a bit more nippy. Douglas Luiz is good. I do think he's been really good this season for them. But going forward, like, he's a player that I'd look at them more to control the game, keep the ball moving for them. Like, I feel like the thing is with their midfield is it's not so much power as in going forward with the ball. They're just very solid with the ball. They're very good defensively, but going forward, I don't see that piash, like that quick 1, 2, 3 movement without McGinn being in there. The front line is dangerous though. The front line is it's real dangerous, and it's something that we're gonna have to keep an eye on, because Ollie Watkins and Diaby are just lightning quick. They're trouble. They're always looking to get on the end of a cross. And they're always there. They're always in the box. So I feel like they're the two key players that we're just going to have to look out for.
Tops, real quick, do you think the midfield is a worry? Does that worry you at all? Is there anyone in that midfield that you think we need to put a man on him, or we need to kind of, watch out for their midfielder player? Is there, or even up front? I'll go as far as their forward player or their wing backs, their wingers, their fullbacks, sorry, and Cash.
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say, honestly, maybe in terms of form, they're probably in a better position than we are. But in terms of ability, I feel that we can very much match them. I feel like at the moment, Louise, Kamara, McGinn, they're in very good moments. They're in a very good moment. And to be honest with you, I feel like one of the biggest things, and this is why I feel European football is important. Sometimes if you have more games, you learn more about your squad. You can see more about your squad. You can see them in different types of moments, in times of stress, in times of less stress. And actually, them being in Europe allows their team to be able to build a rhythm. They've gone periods of this season where they've not lost 2 in a row. They've gone periods where they are like 14 games unbeaten at home. And that's because they've got a lot of rhythm and they're playing a lot of games and they're learning a lot about each other. Plus, Emery has spent a lot more time than, say, Ange spent with his team. So he's probably got them playing in the way that he wants them to play. I do feel that they're in a good moment of form. And I feel like they are dealing with additional European football really well. But I wouldn't say there's anyone personally that I feel we would have to absolutely stop in the midfield. I think Diaby is a very good player. I think Zaniolo is a good player. I think Bailey, when he's given the opportunity, is a good player. And I think Watkins is in a really, really positive form. He's started to realise the kind of player that he is, and also the abilities that have gotten to where he is. And also he's now leaning on the really good stuff that he's able to do as a striker. I think they're a very good team. I wouldn't say they're a brilliant team or an excellent team, but I think they're being coached really well. And they've managed to get to a point where the manager's been backed. They're playing in the way that he wants them to play. But I think it will be a very good test for us. And I think it will be interesting because I don't think away from home they're as confident as they are at home.
George, obviously football is a team game, but if we're looking at Spurs, who's the player that's going to get us out of this kind of, against Aston Villa? Who's the player that you think is going to stand up for us? Who's the player that's going to stand out? Who's going to be the
one man that always is, man? Heung-min Son. This is literally Heung-min Son. It's the one man. He always finds a way. For the past 3 or 4 years, even when Kane's not been there, he's been the man that we've looked to. And so far this season, yet again, in most of the games, he's been the man that's had to show up, get the finish, get the points. And I expect the same against Villa. I know it's a lot of pressure, but even coming off the back of his international break, I think today he scored 2 goals or got 2 assists and a goal or something like that. So he's still playing really good. He's in top form in the league. The Wolves game, no one played good, so I'm not even going to hold that against him. So I expect him to get the goals against Villa. And if we are going to win and we are going to have a convincing performance, it's going to be because he stepped up yet again.
And Hass, Sonny's obviously looking like the man, but how do we get the ball to Sonny if the midfield is lacking?
That's the question. That's the question. That midfield trio, whoever it's going to be, they're going to need to be more dynamic. They're going to need to be quicker on the ball. Their ball retention's got to be spot on. Against Villa, they're not going to get that time, though. That's the thing. They're not going to get that time. With what Maddison gave us, Maddison, he was dropping deep. He was playing those balls from deep, deep line playmaker, getting forward. He was literally, if you look at him like on his touch map, okay, and compared it to, let's say, Harry Kane when he was at the team, it's very similar. Dropping deep, picking up the ball, moving it forward. So in some ways, he's almost become like a new Harry Kane, but obviously in a different position. But yeah, I just think there's a lot of players that can hurt us at Aston Villa. The danger doesn't, they're not limited to one area where they can hurt you. They can hurt you from the left, the right. They've got Ollie Watkins in the middle. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been George who mentioned McGinn. McGinn is a bane in our side on his against us, a bane of our lives. He's just the guy's everywhere. The guy's everywhere. Like, it's incredible how well he plays for Aston Villa. But yeah, I don't know, man. As the captain, you'd have to say Sonny has to be the one that stands up and takes this team by the scruff of the neck and says, right, everyone's got to roll their sleeves up and we've got to dig in and try and get a result here because we're playing at home. Okay, we don't want to be embarrassed at home no matter what team we put out. We don't want to be embarrassed at home against Villa. So Sonny's going to have to sort of have that extra responsibility of picking the team up. And we need to sort of get him into the game. But I just wanted to say, like, looking at this Villa team, like, I don't know about you guys, but pound for pound, if you look at the teams, I think they have a better squad than us. I really do. All the players that we mentioned already, but also we haven't mentioned, the likes of, they've got Pau Torres at the back, who had a rocky start, but he'll come into his own. I really like Matty Cash as well. At left back, they've got a young midfielder, Jacob Ramsey, who I really rate. Yori Tielemans in midfield as well. Emi Buendia, Lucas Digne. There's so many players like Ezri Konsa, Alex Moreno that they bought. These guys, they've got a really, really good squad, and I think they're on the cusp of, becoming a great team. So we're gonna have to, have something about us this weekend to try and get something out of this game. But just a quick question for you guys: with our normal starting 11, how would you see this game going? Like, would you fancy us to smash them? Would you fancy us to give them a game, but a close game? How would you guys see it?
I would fancy us to give them a very close game, but we would edge it. Like, I feel very conflicted because I feel like in all of these games that we've had this season, where we've had our first 11, there's lots of games where there's lots of ifs and buts, and yeah, sure, it's hypotheticals, but we've shown that we're more than capable of dealing with most of the teams that we've come up against. Arsenal away, we did. Liverpool at home, despite the red cards and everything, we did. Chelsea in the first 20 minutes, we did. Like, it's very easy to say ifs and buts, but I still feel that our first 11 is as strong as anyone's outside of City in the league, in my opinion. And until we get to that point where we get everyone fit and playing again, it really will just be hypotheticals. But I think on our day at home with our first 11, this is a win. This is not a comfortable win, but it's a win.
100%.
And George?
No, 100%. Literally echo what Top said. Like, I don't feel like any game this season we've been super convincing, and we haven't rolled apart from Burnley, we haven't really rolled no team over.
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
team has moments in the game. Like, every team has had a good 15, 20 minutes against us. So we can't ever write off the fact that Villa definitely would, even with our first team. With this team that we've got coming up this weekend, I think they're going to have a lot of the ball. They're probably going to control the game for a lot of it. Especially if we, similar to Wolves, if we go 1-0 up, you're going to find that these players will do the same thing they've done against Wolves and just drop off that extra yard or two, try play it a bit safe, not take the risks that are needed. And that's not what we need. We can't let the complacency sink into this team, because that's exactly where we went wrong against Wolves. And we got to show that. Just that little edge that we had at the start of the season, where everyone just had a bit more of a point to prove. And I know obviously I feel like it's just for Tottenham in general, what happens to us is we let it get to our heads sometimes, and the players especially, that they probably did let it get to their heads at the start of the season, probably saying, "Oh yeah, like it's working out." But now Madison, no Van de Ven, now Romero, these players that have been getting away with it, they can't do that anymore. So we're gonna need them to step it up, and it's gonna be a scrappy one. I do really think it's gonna be a scrappy game. Probably not a nice watch. You're gonna see a lot of balls like like on the weekend, just a lot of bad passes, a lot of bad balls, and yeah, it's just going to be a tough one, tough watch.
And there's a reason why I asked that, because I'm trying to use it as a barometer of how, you know, how well the first 11 will do against this Aston Villa team compared to the team that we have now, where we have a central defensive pairing missing. Potentially, Udogie has to be monitored. He might be missing. Sorry, my dog's just drinking water, so it's making a bit of noise. Potentially, Udogie missing as well. We've got Bissouma, Maddison missing. We've got a plethora of wingers missing. This is far from our best 11. So, you know, if it's a close game but we edge it with our first 11, God knows what it's going to be like with this team that we're going to put out this week, because it's going to be a patch job. It's going to be a patch job, because if you look at the first 11, right, and George, I agree with you, we haven't blown away teams. Burnley, we played well, we got a few goals, but they've just come up and they're very sort of naive in the way they play, sort of thing. They don't really adapt. They like to play their own way, but that's more to their detriment. But we give up a lot of chances to teams, but that's just the way we play, right? We give chances to teams because it's risk and reward. That we knew that when Andrew's coming in, we're going to play the high line, we're going to give teams a chance, but we're also going to get chances. Now, with the team that we're going to put out this weekend, I just feel like, are those chances going to increase in volume this weekend?
One thing go on.
Or is he going to tighten it at the back, because we've got more of a classic centre-back pairing where they don't do anything special? I mean, Dyer can play the ball out, carry the ball. Davies to some extent, because he plays left-back as well. But they're a very safe pairing, aren't they? Like, if you look at Van de Ven and Romero, they like to venture forward. Romero's, we've seen him at times playing the final third. But they're progressive defenders. They can carry the ball out. They can take those risks. Van de Ven, pace to burn. But these defenders on the weekend, it's going to be so easy to get in behind. We found against Chelsea, even before we went down to 10 men and then to 9 men, Sterling was getting in, like, time after time after time after time. And that was with Romero and Van de Ven at the back. So this is my question. Diaby, who's Leon Bailey, Zaniolo. These players, they're no joke. Trust me.
One thing I will say, sorry to cut you, is I'm looking at Spurs results. I'm looking at the games we've played so far, and I feel like the teams that have sat off us, we've not blown them away. We've kind of struggled. I think the teams, like the so-called big six teams, or the teams that have a little bit more about them, that have attacked us, I felt like we've done better with them. Now, I do admit, against Chelsea, there are periods where we don't have full control. That's not the style of football we do. We're not a team that are going to control the game and literally pass sideways, backwards, and just literally camp in your half. And then we want to have a go. Everything we do is with intent. So, of course, with Chelsea, it could have been 2-0 because the way we play is very front-footed. We're very in your face. And then that gives the other team some chances. And that's how Chelsea got in. So we could have easily blown Chelsea away. At the same time, Chelsea could have got back into it, and they were starting to edge back into it. That's just how it goes with the style of play we have. I look at the Arsenal game. The Arsenal game, again, they're coming at us. We're able to go at them. Do you know what I'm saying? Again, a high line, very similar to what Chelsea are doing, in terms of being front-footed, etc. If they come onto us, then we're going to be able to go into them. We play a much better style of football. We're more suited for that. I look at Manchester United. they were pressing us high from the front. We started to build up from the back. We found a way through. Again, that game was amazing. It was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was very entertaining. And I'm noticing a pattern. All these big 6 teams that we're playing, apart from Arsenal, we're playing them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with the crowd behind us. We're playing very front-footed. We're able to get at them. Aston Villa, again, they're going to be coming at us with a high line, and they're going to be coming onto us. And again, I do admit that we are missing those 2 centre-backs. But to be fair, for the first 90 minutes, I felt like they did an okay job. We were in that game. We were in that Wolves game. Albeit that Wolves started to come onto us. We were away from home. And that's when the actual tide started turning, where their fans started getting up because we weren't taking the initiative. You were doing the old Spurs where we started looking at the clock. We started looking at the time. And that's when you saw Eric Dyer kind of fall off. I feel like
he fell off. But Ash, sorry, I don't want to cut you. I just want to get this out there before I forget. Though. Right? How many chances, clear-cut chances, did Wang Hee-chan miss, and a couple of others as well? Literally clear-cut chances.
Had one standout chance in that game. One standout.
I don't know about one.
The other, that's what I think. This is my opinion. When I saw the game, there was one standout chance where Huang, I was like, he should have put that away. But the other chances, they had about two, and then it was terrible shooting. That's the reason.
I agree with Ash on that, by the way. I do think they're poor chances.
And is that the reason? Is that because the way we played? Is that a reason why they created those chances? Because the way we played that's what we allowed them to create those chances. Because sometimes the way you play, you give up a certain amount of chances, if that makes sense. Like against Chelsea, we gave up certain chances because we were a lot more front-footed because of the players we had. Against Aston Villa, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm just trying to argue a point to say, like, Tops, you can come into this. What do you think? Is it or Aston Villa coming through? Is it going to be like Aston Villa going to roll us over? Do we not have enough in our tank? Do we not have?
No, I mean, I hear a lot with what Haz is saying. I think I've been having this debate with myself and a couple of other Spurs lads. What does Ange have to do in this moment? Because sometimes this kind of game, this scenario, it's a barometer for how well he is implementing his philosophy and style. Because he keeps saying he's going to be extremely adamant, he's strong-minded in his ability to play the way he wants to play. That's fine. If that's how you want to play, that's how you want to play. And that means then that if you're going to play this way, everybody has to be all in. And if everybody's all in, it means that you should be able to have interchangeable pieces going in and playing and implementing exactly what you want. We can now see that there is some chinks in this armor of Ange's philosophy, because he's now playing players who, first of all, haven't got full amount of fitness, they haven't got confidence, and they just haven't got the technical ability to do it. So you, in a way, you kind of want him to temper this philosophy, this style, in a little way to kind of soften the blow. But in my opinion, I just don't think there's any benefit in doing that. And I feel like he has to go machine for machine with whatever team we come up against, be it a Villa, be it an Arsenal, be it a Man United. And even if it doesn't come off the way we want to, I think it will still implement the style that he wants to. And I feel that, like, for me personally as a fan, and I do genuinely feel this, I'm willing to take losses in the right way. If I can see that there's a pattern, if I can see that there's a method in which we are kind of working towards. Whilst I don't want to see my team battered, I definitely want to see us play in a way that is progressive, that is sustainable, and that is enjoyable to watch. And I kind of feel that, like, this season, even in the big games, we've been able to do that. I do really feel that there is largely a personnel issue in the squad. I still feel the squad is pretty much bare thin after the first 13. And I think it will take some time for us to get truly what we want from it. But I think Ange isn't going to change. And I think we have to understand as fans that this is probably going to be part of the process we're going to have to accept.
And just
Like
on
one
that,
of, like just last point I'll make is that one of the big things I think as well is hampering us, and I just from a football perspective, a tactical perspective, is that we set up in a way that we kind of set mini traps for teams, and we hold the ball, we hold the ball, we hold the ball until we're able to break that first press, and we'll be able to get out of that first phase into the second phase, into our wingers or into Son. With Madison, with Basuma, you have that. And the minute you lose players with this ability who can do this, it automatically reduces the amount in which you get the ball to those final third guys, which is why suddenly you look at games against Chelsea or the games before that where we were doing that, but then the minute these players aren't available, like against Wolves, all of a sudden the number of touch count, the number of touches, and the number of shots and chances created are massively, massively reduced. And honestly, I think we should probably expect something similar on Saturday against Sunday against Aston Villa, because it will be difficult to get the ball into those final third guys. But he, as a manager, is paid to do what he's supposed to do, and he has to find a way to get around that.
and just on that point that you made, I just want to know from the panel. I'll go around. What is it that we need in January to make Ange's philosophy work, and for us to have interchangeable pieces and be fluid, where one player comes out, another player comes in? What is a priority position for us in terms of, do we need to prioritize on one area over another? And then what are the free signings you think that's going to help stabilize us to get through to next summer? Because obviously summer is going to be another big build and a lot of players need to come out, etc. I do know that, but I'm just saying in hypothetical terms, if we could get 3 players in or 3 positions in, what 3 positions would it be, and what type of traits and attributes would you look for in those players? And I'll start with go on, Tops. It looked like you'd like to answer there. Go on.
I just think it's for me, it's very clear the 3 players we need. We need a competent ball playing third centre back. We need a replacement or a second competent ball playing, high volume passing 6, and we need a one-on-one attacking scoring winger.
Cool. Pass. You agree?
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. Defense is going to be priority because we've seen with Romero and Van der Ven out, I think it's severely lacking. I don't think we will for a defender. I don't think they will go for a defender because look, unless Bayer ends up going to Roma or wherever it is that he's reported to be going to, I don't think we'll bring someone in. But I definitely think centre back. I think still an 8 because we've seen with Madison being out as well. You know, it's just a problem. And goals. You know, I'd like to see an inside sort of a winger that can sort of play as a forward as well, like a forward winger, that can cut inside, get goals. I do like the look of Rafinha. If those reports are true, I think he's quick, agile, strong. He knows where the goal is. We've seen him from his Leeds days as well, and even Barcelona as well. He knows where the net is. So yeah, I think inside forward. I think we should carry on playing Son down the middle. I think he's not as effective as he used to be playing on the wings. You know, when he was a bit younger. I think playing through the middle, I think is the most ideal scenario, and then sort of complement him with another forward who can drift in from the wing, like an inside forward or something along those lines. But whoever comes into that front 3 position has to be versatile, in my opinion, where it can play across the 3 sort of positions. But to do that in January, it's a mission. Like I don't know where we're going to find that, but Rafinha's a good.
I think there's a lot of options out there. I do actually think, especially if you're looking at the attacking line. Sorry, I personally think we go more for a left-sided player. I think we've got Brennan Johnson, like you said, who's better on the right side. And we need someone to compete with Kulu. Them two should be competing for that spot. I don't feel like the spot should be given to Kulu because at the moment he's probably had a bit more of a free run at that right side, and maybe he's getting a bit comfortable with it. I'm a big fan of him, but the competition, what makes him step up his game.
We need something different there, though, innit? Don't you think? Because he becomes too predictable. It's like, you know, and when he becomes predictable, you know what he's going to do? He's going to try and cut it to his left foot, take a shot, or he's going to cut it back to Borrow. Like the two options are you know always there every single game. So he's very predictable. But we need something that can come on, or someone that can come on. Sorry, that's going to give us different options. You know, that's going to be more direct. Let's say
100%. I do think that, but that's where I think we come into it and bringing a player on the left side who's like that. Because right now, a lot of our whole attacking threats on the right side. I think we need players we need it to be on either side, and bringing in, I mean, a few players that I would look at as Armand Loriente from Sassuolo. He's 1v1 demon. Very, really good player. Nico Williams, Atletico Bilbao, another good player I feel like we could look at potentially bringing in. Or, you know, Ange's old man Jota. Like, he's literally not wanted at Al Ittihad. Why not go give him a go and see? Look, we all know Spurs love a deal. You're going to get a real deal out of this one. A player that doesn't even, not even wanted at his club.
I would bring him in just for the Tash.
That
Tash is wild.
So I feel like you can. There's a few options going forward, but I do agree with Tops. I do agree that we need a centre back needs to be key. I feel like we need to bring in a centre back, like 100%. A centre back needs to come in, needs to be one of the first signings, and then we look at the midfield. You can improve any part of that midfield. To be honest, I feel like you need depth in all those positions, but as we see already, the key position is creative midfielder, someone who can come in replacement for Maddison or coming off the bench for Maddison because his fitness hasn't been the best this season, or Ange doesn't believe so because he's come off in a lot of those games. He's trying to save him, and if he's coming off, we need to bring on someone who's a bit more like for like.
Yeah, I tend to agree, man. I think you've got technical players. If Bentancur, it's a massive if Bentancur can get back to the level or close to it where he was last season, I think he was our second most important player after Kane. In terms of like leadership, in terms of winning the ball high up the pitch, his aggression, in terms of his actual technical ability, in terms of him actually turning on the half turn, in terms of him passing and seeing the pass early and actually adding goals. Like he actually started to add goals in that position. He would, for me, be a player that could possibly fill in for Maddison if Maddison wasn't available. Do you know what I mean? He could possibly play on the left. I do think his best position was on the right where Sarr is, but I think Sarr gives us so much stability off the ball as well as on the ball as an 8. And he's got so much agility and athleticism and energy. I prefer Sarr to stay there. So I wouldn't be mad if Bentancur. I just need him to, just the goals. I just need those goals to come back. And then, like, yeah, I think he could solve a problem there where Maddison's missing. On that forward line, I'm still not sure about Solomon. I think the jury's still out. I'm not sure if he's that guy. Obviously, it's different at Shakhtar Donetsk where he was ripping it up. I know he was in the same team as that Chelsea player. What's it called? The blonde Usain Bolt. Yeah. So we'll see, innit? Time will tell. He didn't do too well at Fulham, and his injuries, that's another thing I don't really like. So I do like the fact that we were linked with that young kid. Although it is a lower league in the Belgium league. Is it Musa?
He's really good.
Yeah, Antonio Nusa. Yeah.
I like the fact that he's not just a winger, but he's a man that can come inside, but he can also find a player. He's like, in terms of through balls or key passes, he's not just hugging that wing. He's able to kind of create from in the midfield area as well. And I kind of like that. He's got goals in him. He's got a wicked cross in him. I saw him at Norway helping out Udegaard and also Haaland, giving him assists as well. So, and he's young as well. So he's the right profile. And I realized that that's the style that we're looking for. Centre back wise, I agree with you guys. I think we need a centre back that can play from the back, but has pace. And also, I wouldn't mind a centre back that's front footed, similar to Romero. You know, if Van der Ven's there, I want someone that's got a mixture of two. I don't want to lose Van der Ven's pace if he gets injured, but then also I don't want to use Romero's able to be a tempo center in terms of getting that ball high up the pitch, defending high up, and then making that quick pass and forward, and then starting our attacks off. So I wouldn't mind a defender that's also kind of young as well, that can give competition to the actual back line. And also, I want him to have characteristics that he's happy and he's happy to work for the team and also work for his place as well. I don't want someone to come in with a chip in the shoulder. I'm not saying Tapsoba would have, but Tapsoba costing that much money, I don't think he sits on the bench. He's got to start. So maybe Tapsoba wouldn't work for us at this current time. I would love to have him in, but just the amount of money it will cost and the profile of the player. Would we drop Romero for a Tapsoba? I don't know. So that's my only thing with Tapsoba. But other than that, I would love him in. But yeah, that's it for me. Those are the positions I would like to get in. But I wanted to talk quickly about the big story at the moment. A lot of teams have been put in this whole whirlwind of FFP. People have been talking about Chelsea. We all know about Chelsea. They got the transfer ban for a whole year, where Lampard couldn't make any transfers. Man City were getting accused from FFP. They were going through court cases, and the cases are ongoing with Man City and Chelsea. Now, Everton have been found guilty, have been stung with 10-point fine, and now all of a sudden, the spotlight has come on us. Jermaine Defoe, 2008, Harry Redknapp. There was a slight mishap in terms of agents. There was an unregistered agent, and we've done some business, and now all of a sudden we're looking like we could get ducks on points. I want to get your guys' take on it. I don't know too much about it. I thought that situation was investigated. I don't know if it's a case of where, you get tried twice. I thought you get tried once and that was it, but apparently not. So anyone can start on this one. What are your thoughts on, do you think Spurs will get the points deducted? Do you think we'll get a ban? Some people are saying relegation. I don't know if that's too extreme.
If I'm honest, I do think it's just a lack of news stories for the journalists. That's what I think it is. I don't feel like anything much is going to come of it. If there's an unlicensed agent for a player of a fee that's under £10 million, who went to Portsmouth, who got relegated that season, I can't see what impact this has had on football or had on any of the games since then. We might get a fine, probably look at a couple $100,000 or something like that, but I don't see anything worse happening than that, because the things that people are comparing it to, the likes of Luton and Everton and all these people that have actually broken plenty of rules and like 50 breaches of it's not even financial fair play, but all these other FA rules and so on, that would be why they get the points deducted. But I generally do think it's just a lack of news stories, that they're just trying to put something out that would give a bit of traction to Tottenham fans.
Let's be honest. Daniel Levy's already self-inflicted punishment on us back in the Poch days when he went the whole season without signing anyone. So we've literally handed ourselves that punishment already. I don't know, man. I don't think this is gonna have any legs to it. To be honest, it would be pretty harsh if it's reinvestigated again, considering the scale of it as well. Like George was saying, for me, it's just not on the same scale of what Everton's been docked points for, what Man City might be possibly investigated for, what Chelsea were sort of banned from signing players. I just think it's not on that same level, and I don't think it's got any legs to it. I don't think we need to worry about it, to be honest with you. It's just a slow week this week because of the international break, and people need to put news out there. So for me, I'm not worried, to be honest with you. It is what it is. It was investigated. I don't think they need to sort of open that door again. So yeah.
Tops, just a quick one. What do you make of it?
Yeah, very similarly. I mean, like, if you look at some of the details, it does look a bit funny, and if you compare it to some of the stuff that's happened in the past, it does give you a little bit cause for concern. But very similarly, I don't think it was properly reviewed at the time, and I think there's going to be like a lot more information that need to be resolved or looked at before it's probably reviewed again. I suppose this is the nature of it. We're talking about something that was almost what's it, 18 years ago at this point. I'm not really sure if it's something that has any legs particularly. It doesn't read well in terms of Levy's involvement in it and Spurs' lack of due diligence with regards to trying to fix it at the time, and also how far it went ahead, considering the agent in question was actually on a very public list of agents who weren't allowed to operate in the league at the time. But again, I think at the time it was resolved, and strange that it's kind of been brought up all this time later on. I mean, touch wood, nothing sinister comes of it in terms of points of deduction or a ban, or I'm envisage it'll probably just be some sort of fine, which is what I think a lot of these things were sanctioned with at the time.
Just a quick one before we end the show, because we're going to wrap up now. I didn't get a score prediction, and I just want to find out what people's score predictions are. I'll start with you, George.
Do you know? It's always tough to ask. I'll go 2-1 Spurs, because we won't keep a clean sheet, but I want to be confident that we can get a win at home.
Tops?
2-2.
3-2. Spurs or Villa?
No, 2-2. I say draw. 2-2 draw.
Sorry, 2-2. Okay. And Has?
2-2 draw.
I'm sorry, guys. 2-1 to Villa.
Cool. Strong. I'm going to go with 2-1 Spurs, trying to put it out there in the universe, all that, Xingwei and all that. But yeah, man, I want to just big up to my guests. Thanks for coming on. Big yourselves up, George. Where can we find you, man?
Oh, thank you, man. Literally just what in the ats there, _4 George or Direct Diaries on TikTok. And apart from that, just here, there, and everywhere on podcasts. But thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure yet again, but definitely look forward to coming back.
Love, bro. Thanks again. And Tops, how can we find you?
Tops 881 on X. And you'll also find me at New Spurs Order on Twitter and Instagram, and we're just under the umbrella of Touchdown Fracas on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So yeah, get us.
Cool. Has?
Oh, well, we're back tomorrow. We're on the late shift, me and you tomorrow. So yeah, we've got the rival show tomorrow, 9 p.m. South Fuse Coys. Make sure you tune in. We've got a few guests coming on tomorrow night. I know we've got one Arsenal fan confirmed. Ash, I don't know if you've got anyone else confirmed, but you like to keep things under wraps.
You know me.
Don't like to give away too much. But guys and girls, make sure you tune in tomorrow night, and make sure also you subscribe to the two wonderful guests up above me as well. Make sure you go on their profiles and make sure you follow them. But yeah, tomorrow night is the one rival show.
And final words, I just want to say, man, Marlon, I hope you're alive. I hope you're okay. Free Marlon. I think he's got nicked. Hashtag free Marlon. That's everyone in the chat, bro. Like, broski, wherever you are, hit me up, man. I can't see you. I don't know. I can't smell you. It's mad out here. But yeah, love for every time. Thanks for people watching at home. And if you're on the TV, go back onto your mobile and hit that like, man. But yeah, big yourselves up. Next week, we've got a massive show. Again, we're just bringing on big guests every time. But yeah, man, I want to hear you guys' comments as well. Who do you think's gonna start, and what is your prediction, your score predictions, people? Love. Big up every time, man. Peace. Come on, you Spurs.